Hello, I'm Drawlords, and today we're taking a look at what cryptids would look like as dragons. This is week 3 of Smaugust. I've done 2 other weeks previously. I recommend you check those out after this one if you haven't already. Before we begin, I'd like to say that I am taking on commissions now. If you're interested, you can email me at this email or check out the Discord down in the description below and we can discuss things there. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video and I'll get on to the drawings. The first day's prompt was feathered, and so my mind instantly went to a roc, which is basically an enormous eagle capable of picking up things like cows and pigs with ease. So I was basically going to make a dragon bird fusion. I was really focusing on making the wings as huge as possible, because in lots of depictions of this creature, this cryptid, they have huge wings, and that's obviously how they would get lots of lift. I think the design was kind of simplistic, along with both the detailing and the shading, and that kind of let this prompt down. But overall, I quite like how it turned out. It's a bird dragon, which is what I wanted to make, so here it is. Day 16's prompt was deep sea, and I immediately thought of a Kraken, which is one of the most famous cryptids of all time. I tried to make this a little interesting by incorporating the tentacles into its mouth, imagining them as some sort of projectile, or like they spread out to try and capture boats and eat them. And I really like the overall composition of this artwork, because it's similar to the Drawlords film, where it's this huge creature underneath something, and in this case it's a boat, not a human, so it's on a much larger scale. But either way, it's a really cool way of showing the scale of this dragon, and just an interesting angle of dragons that I don't usually do. This dragon has sort of a split mouth, where it's instead of going up and down, it goes side to side and splits the head that way. I just thought that was pretty cool, and it meant that I could get this sort of positioning without just having the top of a dragon's head, and making it more interesting. It also looks more like a beak when I did it this way, which is what squids have, and so that's why I tried to incorporate that. The detailing and colouring was pretty simple. I just did flat colours and a little bit of hatching in places to try and get a little bit of detail, but I tried to do something different with the shading. Instead of just using colours, I decided to try out the dodge and burn brush, because they're brushes in Krita instead of normally their tools. This kind of made more of a transparent highlight and kind of made it look more like the water was reflecting off of this dragon instead of just a normal highlight, which I quite like, and I think it worked with this dragon. Day 17 for me, I was kind of apprehensive because I really wanted to make this dragon look like it was roaring at the moon, but I wasn't sure how to make it look dragon-like but also werewolf-like, because the prompt was Lunar, so I just went for a werewolf, which is a pretty famous cryptid that most of you would have heard of, and I was imagining this creature howling up with a huge moon behind it. Trying to make this creature look slightly more draconic and sort of lizard-like was kind of difficult, though I think with the sort of longer body and especially the longer face definitely made it look a little bit more sort of reptilian instead of mammalian and like a wolf. I think I could have done something to the face structure to make it look like it was howling a little more, because it kind of just looks like it's opening its mouth into the sky. It doesn't really look like it's howling. Other than that, I did a couple of simple bits of hair texture, and then I went around and just did the base coat. And for this one I decided to try something different. I was going to almost have the shading in the middle, because there's such a huge light source behind, you'd see some of that light coming around, and I think this sort of made it almost look silhouetted once I'd finished all of the shading, and I really liked how this turned out. I slightly blended out used the airbrush so that the edges weren't super hard, and then I just made a couple of layers of dark, and I really like how this sort of makes a silhouetted effect, like I said before. And then I went around and just selected around all the edges, which took quite a long time. And this was to almost have like a edge highlighting effect, showing that the moon's silvery light is reaching the reaching this dragon. I had a couple of problems trying to shade the back frills, but in the end I think that turned out fine. And then I had a little bit of fun making this sort of bluish moon with some sort of divots. And then I just added a little glow on top just to make it look like it's glowing. In the end, I was trying to figure out, with the help of my Discord, whether I liked the edge shading or not. Day 18's prompt was tribal, and for this one I was really unsure of what cryptid to base it on. So I decided to look into which cryptids are reported by tribes, especially in North America, because there are generally a lot of cryptids in North America. And from that I found that lots of North American tribes, especially the Native Americans, they reported creatures that can be described as Wendigos. So that's where I took this prompt. So I basically just decided to draw a Wendigo drawing from this prompt, and making sure that it had the distinctive Wendigo features, like a very sort of skinny body, a skull, and sort of deer horns. I really like how the skull turned out. I decided to do it the deer skull instead of a ram skull because I wanted the height of the skull instead of just the sort of thinness that the ram skull will have, and I obviously wanted the antlers. Making sure this was more like a dragon than just a Wendigo was somewhat difficult, because for lots of these I've just been doing tails and wings to make them look like a dragon, which is kind of cheap, but for this one I kind of just did that, except I wanted to try and elongate the body and make sure that the tail sort of fitted in with the rest of the body, and also making it have these sort of wyvern-like wings, which don't make sense, and lots of cryptids don't make sense. They're usually an amalgamation of lots of animals, so that's why I decided to do give it wings, but also give it arm wings. With the colouring, I mainly just used the fill tool, and then went around and shaded the separate bits with the select tool in a similar way to how I did zombie from last week, or from the first week, sorry. But I didn't go into as much shade because I ran out of time, and I didn't do any highlights because again I ran out of time. I feel like this could have been really good with more shading, because it would have sort of added to this creepy aesthetic that Wendigo is. I really liked getting this sort of transparent texturing to the wings. It just looked cool in my opinion. And then I was just going around and adding different environmental bits. I really like the environment of this one. It was sort of a simple misty woodland where I just got a few different colours that are sort of desaturated, and then made sort of tree shapes, and then fuzzed out the ground lit. For rock, I was really interested in trying to find a more obscure cryptid, because I could have just done some sort of rock creature that people have found. So while searching on the internet, I found this cryptid called the slide rock bolter, and basically how it works is it like climbs up mountains, and then it hooks on with it's almost like a whale, and it has a fluke tail, and it hooks onto a mountain with that, and then slides down the mountain onto tourists, eats the mountains, and apparently its momentum then carries it up to the next mountain, and it hooks onto there again, and it just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But I also tried to make the environment stand out a little bit more in this one, because I wanted to get that feeling of it destroying it. For fairy, I basically just did a fairy dragon, and I tried to use this as an opportunity to sort of lighten up. Lots of the drawings have been really gritty and detailed, especially the ones like Tribal and Lunar. So I just wanted to make none of my drawings this Smaugust have been sort of light-hearted, So I just wanted this one to be a very sort of cutesy dragon, and a very light-hearted dragon. So I tried to add lots of little details, like these lines and the dots around the eyes, and just make a big cute eye to try and make this dragon look somewhat cute. And I think that turned out well, especially with the simple shading and the nice vibrant colours. I really like how it turned out. I also tried to use that sort of edge highlighting from Lunar to try and make this dragon look really cool. In the end, I really like this, and especially I quite like this background because it's so simple. I just did a few layers of grass and then it was done. For Feline, I was really kind of running out of steam, and with the others I haven't done as many finished pieces, but I tried to do all of them as finished pieces this week because I really wanted to basically up my game from last week. So this creature was meant to I was almost pulling on the manticore, but there's a cryptid that's basically a saber-toothed tiger, and I'll put links down below in the description to all of the cryptids that I based my dragons on if you want to check those out. But yeah, I basically ran out of steam on this one, and I decided to do almost like an anatomy study for this, trying to figure out where the muscles go, because cats are surprisingly muscly. But I really like this. Also, I've started to use layers more to try and figure out where the back feet would be and make that more of a seamless positioning. I had a little bit of trouble with the back wing positioning because it was just looking kind of unnatural and not the sort of curled up wing that I wanted it to look like. So I had to have a couple attempts at trying to get that right. Eventually I got it okay, and that's what this finished piece is. So here are how all of the dragons turned out for this week. I really enjoyed doing more finished art this week. As I said, I'm looking into doing commissions, so if you're interested in one of those from me, make sure you either email me at this email or you Discord. So both those are going to be in the description, so that we can how that's going to work. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.